Hello everyone. Today let's look into another mate into chess puzzle. So this is the puzzle. Before you try to find the solution, let me give you some clues which could be helpful for you to find the solution. However, if you want to try to find it entirely by yourself, you might want to pause the video now and try to find the first move for white. Now let's look at the clues. Let's see the white position first. Now the rook on c1. The rook by itself does nothing, but however, if you move the knight on c2 to a different square, then the rook on c1 is going to cover this entire c file, which is important, I would say, since this c file overlaps with the squares where the black king can move. So I would say it's pretty much important. So it's less likely the rook is going to make the first move, and it's more likely it's going to stay in the square since it's doing a good job of covering the c file. And so I would say it's more likely the knight on c2 is going to move. Maybe it's in the first or second move. It's up to you to decide. Now the rook on d1 is also doing a good job at making a pin of the black bishop. So maybe this rook is not going to move, or I would say maybe it can move to the e1 square, which by covering the entire e file, which is also useful since the square also overlaps with the black king's movement. So that's one thing. And then the bishop on f2. This bishop on f2 is eyeing on this black bishop on d4. Maybe it's going to take the black bishop at some point in a variation while checkmating black in the second move. Or I would say its purpose could be also to protect this e3 square, since if the black king were to move to the e4 square in its first move, then this e3 square should be protected so that to not make the black king to escape. So maybe that could be the purpose of the star square bishop. So I would say it's also least likely piece to make a first move. And this light square bishop on h3, the same case is also the same case with the rook on c1, or by itself that does nothing. However, if you move the knight on f5, this light square bishop is going to cover this diagonal, which could be important, I believe, since it's also merger comes under the squares where the black king can move. So I would say the rook on c1 and h3 can give potential discoveries for the black king. Also, this knight also seems to be an active piece, the same as the knight on c2, as if they move, they can give some potential discoveries, and also they cover some important squares where the black king can move. And I would say the most important thing is the queen. The queen on g2. I would say it's placed in an awkward position. The rook on g2, the queen on g2 is not going to do anything there, so it's definitely going to move at some point. Maybe it's the first move, second move. It's up to you to decide. Maybe it can take the pawn on f3 to give a check, or it could make another move to involve in the game. But it's definitely placed in an awkward square, and that's something to note. Also, it is important to realize that the first move for white is never going to be giving a check for the black king, as it is easy to find. So it's definitely not going to be something like a knight to c, knight to b4 giving the check. That's not going to be the first move at all. And another thing is, the first move is going to be completely unusual or strange, so it's going to be a little hard to find. Give it quite a bit of time to find the solution. Now, you might want to pause the video now and try to find the first move for white. Alright, I hope you were able to find it. The first key move for white is queen to g5. I hope you're able to find it. If you did, that's great. If you didn't, there's always time to learn from later. Now, why queen to g5? As you can see, there's already two potential discoveries from rook on c1 and bishop on h3. The queen on g5 also includes an excellent potential for discovery for the black king. So that's why. The usefulness of both of these knights are this, as they are one of the active pieces on the board. Now here, if the king were to move to king c5, then white can respond with knight to b4 checkmate. You can see the usefulness of the rook by giving a discovery check. Now let's look at the different variations of black, where the black king moves to a different square. If the black king were to move to, say, king c4, then white can respond with knight to e3 checkmate. Or if the black king were to move to, let's say, king c6, then white can respond with knight to d4 checkmate. Now you can see the usefulness of this knight too. Also, the most important usefulness of this bishop, where it's covering the d7 square, so that is blocking the escape square for the black king. Now let's look at if the black king were to move to say e4, then white can respond with knight into d6 checkmate. You can see the usefulness of this queen as it covers this entire fifth rank. Now, if the black king were to move to say e5, then white can respond with knight into g3 checkmate. Now, it's important that the knight has to move to this square and not any other square because this knight protects this e4 square, thereby blocking the black king to escape. Or lastly, if the black king were to move to king e6, then knight h6 checkmate. Also, you can see that the knight on h6 covers the f7 square, so the black king cannot escape. So this is about this puzzle. I hope you liked it. If you want to learn more about chess through puzzles, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time with a different puzzle. Thank you.